Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the most underrated star powers and gadgets within the game right now. You guys seem to really love this star power gadget and gears video. Let me know what type of videos you want to see in the comment section below. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so starting off with the underrated star powers, starting off with fresh kicks with Fang. So I was definitely inspired by Terry. I'll link his Twitter and his YouTube because he actually has some insane clips with Fang with his star power in particular. So this star power is really good. You've just got to be really disciplined now. Before, it used to be the best star power in the game by far, and now you have to make sure that the opponents are below 1.5k HP, and then you can get your super back for free every single time. This is definitely much better on certain maps and game modes where it's a lot more open, you know, like safe zone for example, dry season. You'll get a lot more chaining off the supers, but I think it's really underrated. Like the other star power with Fang is decent, but it's not necessarily needed. So fresh kicks, give it a try again, and if you're more disciplined with them with those supers, I feel like you can definitely get a lot of use out. So next up we have boosted booster with 8-bit. So I think this star power is incredibly underrated. I used to always like plugged in, and now I just feel like I can't play 8-bit without boosted booster. So this star power increases the super range by 50%, so making it easier for you and your teammates to get value out of it, but it also increases the damage boost by 15%. So from 35% to 50% extra damage. So the reason why it's so good is, in particular, you can combine the damage gear with this super and just get insane damage, especially in highest. You pair this with extra credits and damage just becomes, well, with 8-bit just becomes an absolute damage machine. And again, I just feel like I can't play 8-bit without this star power. So next up, as another really underrated star power, we have automatic with a tick. So normally the well-oiled star power is literally used all of the time, but I feel like people do underrate this star power. It just gives you an increased 9% reload speed. You know, Tick has one of the slowest reload speeds in the game, so any bit of additional reload will really help him out, but I just feel like it's not needed. The only reason you need well-oiled most of the time is because of knockout and bounty. You normally face off against a thrower, so well-oiled really helps you out in those 1v1s, but if you're not facing a thrower, no, you can stay behind cover a lot of times, then automatic is going to be by far the better option. Next up, we have Mandy's first star power called In My Sights. So this star power is incredibly underrated. I feel like I wouldn't notice a difference if I switched off this star power, especially since the new one of hers came out, but this one is just really good, especially on those more longer range maps like Shooting Star. It's incredibly hard to miss your shots with this star power. It makes it like you're playing a sharpshooter on easy mode. So for me, this star power is a must with Mandy. And lastly, for the underrated star powers, we have Honeycomb with B. So this star power, when it first came out, I thought was pretty terrible, but within the last 6 months, this star power is by far the better star power with B. Every single pro player runs this star power, and still under the impression that a lot of people run the other star power. Like maybe if you miss shots a lot with B, the other star power is better, but this one is just so good. Get it 30% extra shield. May not seem like a lot, but for a brawler like B, who is really squishy, it really helps her push up, and a lot of the times you can just hit shots consistently anyway with B. She's super easy to hit her shots with, but also when you have that shield, you can actually push into the opponents a lot easier, and the closer you are to the opponents, the more likely you're going to hit the shot. And especially you know, for the biggest counters to be, you know, like Sprout for example, the extra shield just makes you a lot less vulnerable. So now moving on to the underrated gadgets, starting off with Ruff's gadget called Air Support. So Air Support, I used to think was a pretty pointless gadget, but a lot of the times right now, Ruffs don't really have too good of a matchup with his Sandbags gadget. A lot of the times people can just pierce through it, and he's only really good against like Surge for example. So Air Support really helps you out, especially in Brawl. So a lot of the times it allows you and your team to push up, although like the rockets probably won't even end up hitting anyone. You just have to run away from it, right? Like, of course, if you stay in the middle of it, you're going to concede a lot of damage. So it just forces the enemy team back, makes you get a lot of pressure. And for that reason, I think it's really underrated and actually a solid gadget. Moving into the next underrated gadget, we have Reverse Polarity with Belle's gadget. So this gadget doesn't seem like it does a lot, but in a lot of different game modes and maps, especially those passive ones, just one of these gadgets can allow you and your team to push up. So for example, on center stage, like in the gameplay, if you do end up hitting one of those shots and they're all grouped up in the middle, they have to move away from each other, or else the shots are of course going to bounce against each other. It forces them away from the middle and then makes it a lot easier for you and your teammates to shoot them, because they'll be in plain sight and not behind that wall. So that's just one example. There's a lot of different game modes and maps where it's really useful on, especially maps like Shooting Star. Maybe you're facing a matchup where they have longer range than you, like a Mandy for example, but a gadget against the wall can really help swing the fight in your favor. So next up on the underrated gadgets, we have Poco's gadget called Protective Tunes. So normally this gadget is really bad, But within Power League and how the meta is kind of shifting, this gadget is actually incredibly useful, especially on Hot Zone in particular, but also Brawl, where Poco's best game modes. But anyways, Protective Tunes is pretty good. It removes adverse effects, you know, like crow slows, you know, like bee slows, for example. And that's why it's actually incredibly useful sometimes, you know, especially on a map like Open Zone. A lot of the meta brawlers have slows or slowing effects, you know, like a crow slow, for example. You can get rid of that one. The Lou freeze effect, you can get rid of it. Amber's fire, you can get completely rid of it. Jesse slows, M slows. You also have a squeak slow as well, and also the Otis mute. So if someone's muted, you can pop that gadget and unmute them. So I feel like as time goes on with a lot more abilities in the game, this gadget's getting a lot more useful. So next up we have Gray's first gadget called Walking Cane. So this gadget was always pretty underrated, but was often, well, very overshadowed by his other gadget, Grand Piano. Since that's got a nerf, I think this is by far the better gadget. The main reason why it's good at breaking open walls, but not only that, it actually deals a good amount of damage as well. So if you know the opponent is behind a wall and, for example, it's about 3.5k HP, if you hit him with the gadget, you only need to one-shot him. So for really quick engagements, it's really good at getting those fast kills. As I said, breaks open walls, which is a key mechanic in the game. It counters so many different brawlers right now. So for me, Walking Cane's really good. Of course, it also gets people off of the ball as well. So very strong. And moving on to the last underrated gadget, we have Daryl's gadget called Recalling Rotator. So this gadget is underrated in my eyes. Maybe you guys really see value in this one. For the longest time, I didn't see value in Recalling Rotator, but as I played a lot more Daryl on my mini account, especially in Power League, I know how useful it can be, especially in Brawl. A lot of times as a Daryl, you're kind of waiting, not wanting to feed the opponents, especially for the first 30 seconds to get that first super. So you kind of feel a little bit useless. Like a lot of times I felt a bit useless without this gadget because my teammates are just getting 2v3'd a lot of the time. So Recalling Rotator will allow you to get your super a lot quicker, especially that first one. Once you get your first super with Daryl, it's pretty simple, right? So I just think it's definitely essential for a lot of Brawl game maps. Alright guys, it's going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed this one. As I said in the intro, let me know what type of videos you want to see coming up, because we still have a little bit of a time till the end of the season, also with Brawl Talk at the end of next month. You know, it's actually a long time, a month full of content, but I need to know what you guys like, really. I know star powers and gadget videos are doing pretty good. Tier list, what tier list do you want to see? You know, I've seen Karis recently do gadget and star power ones. I wanted to do that myself before, but it feels like I'm copying if I do it, but I really want to do it anyways. But you know, there's a lot of different things I can be doing in terms of ranking. So yeah, let me know what you think of this list as well. Would you put any other star powers or gadgets in the list that I missed out on? I feel like a lot of these are underrated in my eyes. Maybe not your eyes, but for me, pretty underrated. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and see you guys next time.